Hey everybody, hope you guys are healthy and safe. So this is the Galaxy S21 Ultra. I've been using it for the past 4 days. Now, by the time this video hits, it's going to be buried among like 150 other videos on the S21 Ultra because Samsung just lifted the review embargo. Now, there's going to be a lot of reviews on S21 Ultra and I haven't seen them yet, but I'm pretty sure a lot of them are going to say this is the best zooming system they've ever seen. It's much better than the Note 20 Ultra zooming system. And they're right, this is indeed the best zooming system I've ever seen. But I wanted to make this video to kind of maybe bring attention to the fact that Samsung did not pioneer any of these zooming technology. Huawei actually did them first, and a lot of American reviewers are really not going to mention that. They're just going to compare the S21 Ultra zoom against the S20 Ultra zoom, and that's not really fair because the S20 Ultra zoom wasn't even that good. The Huawei P40 Pro and the Huawei Mate 40 Pro had a much better zooming system than Samsung's 2020 flagships. So in this video, I'm going to do a quick comparison between the Galaxy S21 Ultra and the Huawei Mate 40 Pro. Now, disclaimer right off the bat, this is not a fair comparison because this is Samsung's absolute top dog phone right now. It's a 2021 top tier premium flagship. This is Huawei's late 2020 flagship, and it's not even the highest level. This is just the Mate 40 Pro, not the Mate 40 Pro Plus. The Mate 40 Pro Plus is the one with the souped up periscope zoom lens, the 10 times optical zoom, which is what Samsung is using here, and the extra additional shorter telephoto zoom lens. Unfortunately, I don't have that phone on me, so this is the best I can do right now. So just keep in mind, this is not an apples to apples comparison. It's not like a direct, fair comparison, but it's still worth comparing the two because there's still a lot of similarities between the two phones. Like, first of all, just look at the colors. They look very similar. The texture is remarkably similar too. They're kind of this similar gradient, shimmery silver that does not attract fingerprints because of this soft matte coating. Now, around the front, they both have 6.8-inch displays, but the Galaxy S21 Ultra has a much smaller hole punch cutout because it only houses a single 40 megapixel selfie camera, whereas the Mate 40 Pro has a pill-shaped cutout. But there's a reason for that. That's because this is a real 3D facial scanning system, kind of similar to what Apple did with the Face ID, except Huawei made its cutout a little bit smaller than the notch. Actually quite a bit smaller than the notch. Now, under normal times, I would say the addition of a real 3D facial scanning system is worth it, worth the extra screen cutout, but not in 2020 and 2021 when I'm wearing a mask like all the damn time. So Face ID no longer works on this phone. I have to use an in-display fingerprint reader. So then if that's the case, then I'd rather take the smaller hole punch cutout. Now, the screens both look great, but the S21 Ultra wins on the spec sheets in all the numbers. For example, this screen refreshes at 120 Hz. It's actually a variable refresh rate. It can jump up to 120 Hz maximum, and it's buttery smooth. The Mate 40 Pro only refreshes at 90 Hz. I say only in quote marks because to my eyes, 90 Hz, it's still very damn smooth. I guess if I really nitpick, I can see the difference between 120 and 90, but it's very minimal. Now, same with resolution. The S21 Ultra is a 3200 by 1440 resolution displays, Quad HD 1440p, whereas the Mate 40 Pro only has, technically they call it FHD plus. It's like a little bit north of 1080p. So the resolution, there's a lot less pixels on the screen, but again, it's really hard to see the difference if you're just looking at the displays side by side. Where you will see a difference is in maximum brightness. The S21 Ultra screen just gets a little bit brighter than the Huawei Mate 40 Pro screen. So in that, when you're looking at them under direct sunlight, you can see a difference, but indoors they're both gonna look great. There's no getting around it. The S21 Ultra screen refreshes at a higher rate, it has a higher max brightness, and it has more pixels, so it's a superior screen. But that's ultimately just on the spec sheet. If you look at these phones in the real world, the S21, it's probably still a better panel, but not as much as the numbers suggest. Now, one major difference of the screens is the curvature. That's ironic because Samsung pioneered their curving screen design, and now Samsung's kind of moved away from it. The S21 Ultra screen still curves on the left and right side, but it's very subtle. Whereas the Mate 40 Pro screen, it's very dramatic. Now, I know a lot of you watching this will say you don't like curved screens, so for you, this is better. But for me personally, I like curved screens. I'm superficial. I just think it looks a little bit better because the side bezels appear thinner than a flatter panel. And also I just think visually it just looks mesmerizing when you look at the side of the screen and it looks like images are spilling off of it like an infinity pool. Now, in terms of processing power, both of these are not gonna be missing any power. They both run on 5nm chipset. You have a Snapdragon 888 from Qualcomm and a Kirin 1000 from HiSilicon. It's a subsidy of Huawei. So both of these chips are crazy powerful and will be able to handle anything you throw at it. Now as for endurance, the Mate 40 Pro has a 4,400 mAh battery, whereas the S21 Ultra has a 5,000 mAh battery. So it's a larger battery size, but the Mate 40 Pro has much better battery life. Now a big part of that is just simply because the Mate 40 Pro screen has less pixels to push and it refreshes at a slower rate, so it doesn't use as much power as the S21 Ultra. But part of that is also because Huawei has always been better at optimizing battery life than Samsung and many other brands out there. But let's check out what's important, which is camera. So right now I have quite a nice view outside right now. I'm gonna take a 1x of the Mate 40 Pro and then let's zoom in with a 10x on the Mate 40 Pro. Let's zoom in to this ocean right here, and then we'll go up to 50x max zoom. Now I'm going to do the same with the Galaxy S21 Ultra. 1x, 10x, and 50x. And the S21 Ultra can actually go further up to 100x. The Mate 40 Pro cannot do that. So the reason the S21 Ultra can zoom deeper is because fundamentally this is a more advanced periscope zoom lens than the one Huawei is using here. Samsung's using a 10 times optical zoom lens, whereas Huawei is using a 5 times optical zoom lens. Now again, Samsung did not pioneer this technology. Huawei's Mate 40 Pro Plus, which is the higher tier of this phone, actually uses a 10 times optical zoom lens too. And not only that, the P40 Pro Plus, which came out in June of 2020, more than half a year ago, was already using the 10 times optical zoom. Now unfortunately, I don't have the P40 Pro Plus or the Mate 40 Pro Plus on me anymore, so I don't have a fair comparison to go against the S21 Ultra. But despite that, if you actually look at the photos side by side between the S21 Ultra and the Mate 40 Pro, they look remarkably close in terms of sharpness and clarity at 10 times and 50 times zoom. So even though technically speaking the hardware here is a little bit better than the hardware here, the photos actually turn out very close, maybe because Huawei's software is a little bit more intelligent at dealing with zoom photos because Huawei's been doing it longer. Huawei was the original pioneer of the periscope zoom lens. But where the Galaxy S21 beats the Mate 40 Pro and probably the Mate 40 Pro Plus big time is this new AI technology called lock zoom. So check this out, it's actually kind of mind-blowing. So right now I have the S21 Ultra. Let's jump into 10 times and go up to 30 times. Now as soon as I go up to 30 times, you see you have a mini viewfinder here, right? And then if I tap on this mini viewfinder, it actually locks onto focus, and now the viewfinder stays kind of steady because it's using AI to recognize the scene to lock on. So now I'm going to hold the phone with one hand at 30 times and look at how stable this is. If I go further, if I go up to 100x and then let me tap again to lock. So you see now this is 100 times zoom and I'm holding the phone with one hand, and look at how stable this is. Now if I do the same zoom to Huawei Mate 40 Pro, you're going to see it's going to be a little bit difficult. So let's go up to 30x zoom. So you see right now it's a little bit shaky and I'm holding the phone with two hands. If I hold it with one hand, it's pretty tough to get a focus. Now if you max out at 50, then like you see it gets even worse. So this AI stabilization that the S21 Ultra introduces is a game changer and really what makes this the best zooming system around. Overall, I'm just super impressed with this camera. At any focal length I would say under 30 times, you're gonna get a shot that's pretty clean and Instagram worthy. But once again, gotta give credit where credit is due because this is technology that Huawei pioneered. It's just right now Samsung's climbed a little bit ahead. Now as for the main camera, both of these sensors are huge. So they're gonna pour in a lot of light even in really dark scenes, and both cameras just do a good job. I would say overall, I prefer the S21 Ultra's color science a little bit better because the Mate 40 Pro kind of has this kind of little bit of a bluish tone to some of the photos. Now in terms of software, both of these phones run a skinned version of Android. Android 11 here, Android 10 here. I like One UI a little bit better. Now I know what you're thinking. I haven't talked about the elephant in the room, which is the fact that the Mate 40 Pro cannot run Google apps out of the box. I've decided I'm just not going to talk about that because you guys should know my stance by now. I think it's really unfair what's been happening to Huawei. The US government, the Donald Trump administration, Donald Trump, Mike Pompeo, you know, these are people that we all agree are kind of immoral, they're a little bit corrupt, but somehow when it comes to international politics, we listen to everything they have to say. So I think it's unfair what the US is doing to Huawei. They're playing political games. So I'm not going to knock points on Huawei due to something that's not their fault, because if the US government weren't being bullies, Huawei would be able to use Google apps. Then the software is a lot closer than it is right now. But as of right now, it is what it is. So if you really do need to use Google apps, then it's a no contest. The S21 Ultra is better for that. That's about it for this video comparing the Huawei Mate 40 Pro and the Galaxy S21 Ultra. I really like both of these phones, but right now, this is the top dog. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching.